Francis Scott Key. Fitzgerald was born in 1896. He entered the world on September 24th in the midst of a rapidly changing America. The turn of the century was just around the corner, and the country was buzzing with new ideas and innovations. His birth marked the beginning of a life that would be filled with literary brilliance and personal struggles. He was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, a city known for its vibrant cultural scene and bustling economy. St. Paul, with its picturesque landscapes and thriving community, provided a rich backdrop for Fitzgerald's early years. The city was a melting pot of different cultures and ideas, which would later influence his writing. He was named after a famous relative, Francis Scott Key, who penned the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. This connection to a national icon imbued young Fitzgerald with a sense of pride and a deep appreciation for the power of words. The legacy of his namesake would echo throughout his life, inspiring him to pursue his own literary ambitions. Key wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner, a song that would become a symbol of American resilience and patriotism. This familial link to such an important piece of American history undoubtedly influenced Fitzgerald's sense of identity and his understanding of the cultural significance of storytelling. Fitzgerald was a bright student, showing an early aptitude for academics. His teachers recognized his potential and encouraged him to pursue his interests. He excelled in his studies, particularly in English and literature, where his passion for storytelling began to take shape. He loved to read and write stories, often losing himself in the pages of classic novels and the worlds they created. His imagination was boundless, and he spent countless hours crafting his own tales, dreaming of the day when his stories would be read by others. He went to Princeton University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the country. At Princeton, he found a community of like-minded individuals who shared his passion for literature and the arts. The university provided him with the perfect environment to hone his craft and develop his unique voice. At Princeton, Fitzgerald wrote for literary magazines, contributing stories and essays that showcased his burgeoning talent. His work was well received by his peers, and he quickly gained a reputation as a gifted writer. These early successes fueled his ambition and solidified his desire to pursue a career in writing. He dreamed of becoming a famous writer, envisioning a future where his books would be celebrated and his name would be known by readers around the world. This dream drove him to work tirelessly, constantly refining his skills and seeking new ways to express his ideas. He left Princeton before graduating, a decision that was driven by a combination of personal and financial pressures. Despite this setback, he remained determined to achieve his goals. Leaving Princeton marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one that would be filled with both triumphs and challenges. He joined the Army in 1917, during the height of World War I. The war was a defining moment for many young men of his generation, and Fitzgerald was no exception. His time in the military exposed him to new experiences and perspectives, which would later influence his writing. Fitzgerald was stationed in Alabama, where he continued to write whenever he had the chance. The discipline and structure of military life provided a stark contrast to the creative freedom he had enjoyed at Princeton, but he adapted and found ways to keep his literary dreams alive. His experiences in the Army would later serve as inspiration for some of his most famous works, adding depth and authenticity to his portrayal of the human condition. In Alabama, Fitzgerald met Zelda Sayre. It was in the bustling town of Montgomery, where the Southern charm and vibrant culture created a unique backdrop for their meeting. The streets were filled with the sounds of horse-drawn carriages and the laughter of people enjoying the warm Alabama evenings. Zelda was a beautiful and lively young woman, known for her spirited personality and striking looks. She was the daughter of a prominent Alabama Supreme Court judge, which added to her allure. They fell in love almost instantly, drawn to each other's charisma and ambition. Zelda's free-spirited nature and zest for life captivated Fitzgerald, and she quickly became his muse, inspiring much of his writing. Fitzgerald's first novel, This Side of Paradise, was published in 1920. The book was a semi-autobiographical tale that captured the post-World War I generation's disillusionment and search for meaning. It was a reflection of the times, resonating deeply with young readers who saw themselves in the characters and their struggles. The novel was a big success, catapulting Fitzgerald into the literary spotlight. Newspapers across the country heralded him as a new voice of his generation. The success of This Side of Paradise marked the beginning of Fitzgerald's illustrious career, and he quickly became a household name. Fitzgerald became a literary star, attending glamorous parties and rubbing shoulders with other prominent writers and artists of the time. He was often seen signing books and engaging in lively discussions about literature and the arts. His charm and wit made him a favorite in literary circles. He was only 24 years old when he achieved this remarkable success. Despite his youth, Fitzgerald's writing displayed a maturity and depth that resonated with readers of all ages. His ability to capture the essence of the human experience set him apart from his contemporaries. In 1920, Fitzgerald married Zelda, solidifying their status as one of the most glamorous couples of the era. Their wedding was a grand affair, attended by many of their friends and family. The union of these two vibrant personalities was the talk of the town, and their love story became legendary. Together, they embarked on a life of glamour and excitement, becoming icons of the jazz age. They were often seen at the most exclusive parties, dancing the night away and enjoying the vibrant nightlife of New York City. Their extravagant lifestyle was the epitome of the Roaring Twenties, a time of great social and cultural change. The jazz age had begun, and the Fitzgeralds were at the heart of it. The era was characterized by its lively music, energetic dances, and a sense of freedom and rebellion. Jazz bands played in packed dance halls, and people from all walks of life came together to celebrate and enjoy the new, modern culture. The Fitzgeralds' lives were a reflection of this dynamic period, filled with creativity, passion, and a relentless pursuit of happiness. The Roaring Twenties were a time of great change. The decade was marked by a sense of optimism and a desire to break free from the past. Cities were growing rapidly, and new technologies were transforming everyday life. The automobile, radio, and motion pictures were just a few of the innovations that were changing the way people lived and interacted with the world around them. World War I was over. The end of the war brought a sense of relief and a desire to move forward. Soldiers returned home to a country that was eager to put the hardships of the war behind them. The economy was booming, and people were ready to embrace a new era of prosperity and progress. People were ready to celebrate. The end of the war and the economic boom that followed created a sense of euphoria. Parties and celebrations became a common occurrence as people sought to make the most of their newfound freedom and prosperity. The 1920s were a time of excess, and people were eager to indulge in the pleasures of life. Jazz music filled the air, flappers danced the Charleston. The Jazz Age, as it came to be known, was a time of cultural revolution. Jazz music, with its lively rhythms and improvisational style, became the soundtrack of the decade. Flappers, with their short skirts and bobbed hair, challenged traditional gender roles and embraced a new sense of freedom and independence. It was a time of wealth and extravagance. The economic boom of the 1920s created a new class of wealthy individuals who were eager to flaunt their wealth. Lavish parties, opulent mansions, and extravagant lifestyles became the norm for the rich and famous. The decade was marked by a sense of excess and indulgence as people sought to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Fitzgerald captured this era perfectly in his writing. F. Scott Fitzgerald, one of the most famous writers of the 1920s, chronicled the excesses and extravagance of the decade in his novels and short stories. His works, such as The Great Gatsby, provided a vivid portrayal of the Jazz Age and the people who lived it. Fitzgerald and Zelda lived a lavish lifestyle. F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda were the epitome of the glamorous lifestyle of the 1920s. They were known for their extravagant parties, fashionable attire, and high society connections. The Fitzgeralds were a symbol of the excess and indulgence that defined the decade. They partied with the rich and famous. They traveled the world. The Fitzgeralds were not content to simply enjoy their wealth and status at home. They traveled extensively, attending high society parties and mingling with the rich and famous. Their travels took them to some of the most glamorous destinations in the world, including Paris and the French Riviera. They lived in Paris and on the French Riviera. The Fitzgeralds spent much of the 1920s living in Europe, where they were part of a vibrant expatriate community. Paris and the French Riviera were popular destinations for American expatriates who were drawn to the cultural and artistic opportunities that these cities offered. The Fitzgeralds embraced the expatriate lifestyle, immersing themselves in the vibrant social scene and drawing inspiration from their surroundings. Fitzgerald wrote short stories and novels. Despite their glamorous lifestyle, F. Scott Fitzgerald remained dedicated to his writing. He produced some of his most famous works during the 1920s, including The Great Gatsby and Tender as the Night. His writing captured the spirit of the Jazz Age and provided a lasting legacy of the decade. He became a voice of his generation. F. Scott Fitzgerald's writing resonated with readers of the 1920s and beyond. His portrayal of the excesses and extravagance of the decade struck a chord with a generation that was eager to break free from the past and embrace a new era of prosperity and progress. Fitzgerald's works continue to be celebrated today as a testament to the spirit of the Jazz Age.